Dang it. Hi, Bob Knote, Camp Chaos Chronicles. And what we're going to do today is familiarize you with a piece of equipment that I developed a few years back for the XJS track car project that is now becoming useful on the XJ40 Champ Car project. And the problem being that we've got the car up on the rotisserie at this point. We're working on a lot of the different systems. But what we really need to do at this point is to have a running engine. And having a running engine on a car that's on a rotisserie, that just isn't going to work out. So in order to move forward along two parallel paths, we're going to use this piece of equipment that we have sitting in the machine shop right here. And this piece of equipment is the running stand. And the running stand is essentially a stand that we can use to simulate the engine when it's installed in the vehicle. It's got all the systems on it that an engine requires in order to run and stay cool and do all the stuff that a car normally does, with the exception of putting it under load. So what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be using this to develop our engine management system. Now, as you can see, the engine that's on it is an inline 6-cylinder 4-liter Jaguar engine. The engine was developed, or the stand was developed initially for the 5.3-liter V12. There's got to be a lot of difference between these two engines, and there is. The engine mounts are in a different location. Obviously the engine is not going to match up to a V12 bell housing, so we had to do some stuff in order to make that work. And what we did right here is just took the stock mounts, split it here, bent it down to the right angle, cut some little pie-shaped pieces, welded them in there, did that on the other side, and right now the engine is sitting at exactly the angle that it does in a stock XJ40 vehicle. If you look at the back of the engine here, you can see that there's a bit of a gap. And that's not a big deal, because all we really had to do is make these 3 adapter blocks that bolt to the 2 flanges, one of the bell housing, one of the engine, and everything bolted up perfectly. And what that does, of course, is it enables us to use all this stuff right here without having to actually modify it or build a complete separate unit for this engine right here. And you can see down here we've got another Jaguar V12 motor mount that we use for isolating vibration, and it's perfectly solid, just like it would be in the car. Now back here, you can see that we've got battery box bolted to the bell housing. We've got a little electrical panel right here for fuses and whatever else sort of thing that we need, relays or whatever we needed under the circumstances, which in the case of the V12, we really didn't need any. Up here we see that we've got a rudimentary instrument panel. You can see that we've got a wideband air-fuel mixture gauge, coolant temperature, oil pressure, voltage. We got ignition, fuel pump, alternator, and then the power for the fuel and air mixture gauge. So the beauty part of this thing for the V12 is the fact that first of all, or any engine actually, you get it running and you can determine whether it's got any leaks or not. Now in the case of the V12, that's kind of a big deal, because if you got to take the engine out again, that's kind of a hassle. So, but the other thing that on the V12s that I build is a particularly good benefit is the fact that if you've got the carburetors in the middle of the engine, it's a lot easier to be standing here and you know, adjusting carburetors like this than leaning over the fender of a car. And it's basically, you get it running, get them adjusted, pick the thing up, put it in the car, and it runs exactly the same. And it's a wonderful thing. The other thing that it enabled me to do with the Jag V12 was to build a header system. equal length headers, 29-inch primary tubes. And I don't know how I would have done that project otherwise. It took a project that would have been absolutely impossible for me to do to one that merely ruined my life for 2 months. So up front here, you can see where we mount the radiator. And on the Jaguar V12, this is basically the extent of the mount. There's 2 pegs on the bottom of the radiator. They fit in here, so you take the radiator to set it in. You got 1 top radiator hose from the B bank, 1 from the A bank, and that's your installation right there. Very, very simple. With the 6-cylinder, it's much the same. I had to make these mounts right here, and it's kind of the same process. You fit the pegs in the hole. Bottom radiator hose, this little link right here, simulates the top radiator hose, and that's really all you need. So there it is. Well, there's a couple other things. We got these little pylons right here. This particular one is going to be for the hydraulic pump reservoir, which we need in order to keep the power steering pump from running dry. This one over here is going to be for the coolant recovery tank. And one thing I failed to mention back here is that when we're doing the development of the engine management system, we're going to have another one of these tubes right here coming up. So I'm going to have to install a bushing with a set bolt down there for the purpose of having 2 tubes coming up, and we'll have a table up here with a throttle quadrant, all this stuff, plus enough space for us to do our engine management system. So that's the Champ Chaos engine running stand. And if you do any kind of engine work at home, you know, build multiple engines, and I think you really need one of these. So there you are. Champ Chaos Chronicles. See ya.